The sun blazed down relentlessly, transforming the rural road into a shimmering mirage as Maya Johnson trudged home from school. Her youthful steps faltered, curiosity piqued by the sight of a gleaming red Shelby GT500 Mustang, its hood raised in distress. Beside it, a man in a suit that screamed wealth more than any bank statement could was pacing, his voice raised in frustration as he barked into his phone. I don't care about the cost of the tow. I've been marooned on this forsaken stretch for 2 hours. I'm meeting with the governor, for heaven's sake, and time is ticking. His impatience was palpable, his gaze occasionally darting to the luxurious watch on his wrist. Maya paused, her heart torn between her Aunt Renee's stern warnings about strangers, especially those so starkly out of place in their modest, predominantly black community, 2 hours from Boston, and the compelling scene before her. The man's evident desperation tugged at her empathy. Adjusting her backpack heavy with books and the invaluable toolkit from her Uncle Leon, who believed everyone should master the basics of mechanics, Maya edged closer. Excuse me, sir. She ventured, her voice small but clear. Need some help with your car? Andrew Whitaker, the CEO of Whitaker Enterprises, whose empire sprawled across half of Boston's commercial real estate, spun around, his face initially twisted with annoyance. His expression shifted as he took in the sight of the slight girl with colorful braids, oversized MIT t-shirt, and faded shorts, her offer hanging in the humid air between them. His irritation morphed into a bemused condescension, not expecting this little girl to be of any real assistance. Maya, sweetheart. But this is a high-performance vehicle. I need a real mechanic, Andrew thought, watching her approach. Yet there was something in the way she shrugged, her confidence seeping through as she stepped closer to peer under the hood. My uncle owns a garage, and he's been schooling me in the art of cars since I could toddle. Let me at least have a look, she insisted, her voice a blend of determination and expertise. Before Andrew could voice his doubts, Maya had already discarded her backpack to the ground and was leaning over the engine with a surprising assurance. When did the trouble begin? She inquired, her tone all business. Andrew exhaled deeply, accepting his predicament. The engine started overheating roughly 40 minutes back, and then it just gave up the ghost. Did you smell anything like syrup? She asked her question, piercing through his thoughts. Surprised, Andrew blinked. Yes, actually, how did you know? Maya pointed to a small, telltale puddle beneath the car that had escaped Andrew's notice. It's leaking coolant. That's your overheating culprit. She explained, her words carrying the weight of experience. As she spoke, Andrew couldn't help but watch her with a growing sense of fascination. There was an uncanny familiarity about her, from the way she slightly furrowed her brow in concentration to how her intelligent eyes methodically scanned the engine. What's your name? He asked suddenly, curiosity getting the better of him. Maya. Maya Johnson, she replied, extending her grease-stained hand. He took it, shaking it somewhat hesitantly. Andrew Whitaker. Nice to meet you, Mr. Whitaker. I think I can manage a temporary fix. Maya unzipped her backpack, revealing a small metal case. Uncle Leon insists I carry an emergency kit. You never know when someone might need roadside assistance. Andrew observed, utterly captivated, as she worked with an impressive efficiency, pinpointing the leak in the radiator hose and expertly applying a special tape. That should hold until you reach town, she said, her voice filled with a quiet triumph. But you'll need to add water to replace the coolant you've lost. It was then, as Maya raised her hand to brush a stray lock of hair from her face, that Andrew realized. In that moment, when the sun's rays kissed the emerald stone, Andrew's gaze locked onto the ring adorning Maya's finger. It was an antique gold band cradling a vibrant green gem, its base wrapped with thread to keep it snug on her delicate finger. Andrew's world halted, his heart-skipping beats, as the light danced off the stone, revealing a familiar crescent-shaped flaw. This ring, he thought, was not just any ring. It was the one he had bestowed upon a young girl named Maya at the Little Angels orphanage 12 years ago, mere days before the place vanished into mystery. That ring, Andrew started, his voice quivering with emotion. It's very unique. Maya's gaze dropped to her hand, her eyes shadowing with sorrow. It was my mother's, she whispered. My adoptive mother, Diana, she passed away last year. She said it symbolized a promise, something profound. Andrew, struggling to regain his composure, ventured, "May I inquire where Diana acquired this ring?" Maya's shoulders lifted in a slight shrug. She never revealed that, only mentioned it belonged to someone special and that its meaning would one day become clear to me. The drive home was offered as a gesture of gratitude from Andrew, and after a brief hesitation, Maya agreed. Throughout the 15-minute journey, Andrew's questions seemed casual, yet his heart raced with each answer. "Who have you been living with since Diana's passing?" he asked, his grip on the steering wheel tightening. "I live with Aunt Renee and Uncle Leon now," Maya explained. "They took me in after Diana died." "Have you always lived here?" Andrew pressed his voice, betraying a hint of desperation. "Since I was 3, Maya replied, her voice trailing off. "Before that, Diana didn't speak much about it. I know I was adopted from an orphanage called Little Angels. It closed not long after I left." Andrew's hands almost lost control of the steering wheel at the name. Little Angels. Could it be? The coincidence was too uncanny, too heart-wrenching to ignore. As the car slowed to a halt before a quaint yet meticulously cared-for home, Andrew inhaled deeply, the weight of the past and present pressing upon him. "Yes," he exhaled, his voice barely above a whisper. "I knew it long ago." The air was thick with unspoken history as he turned to Maya. Her eyes, wide with curiosity, met his as she thanked him and prepared to leave. Yet Andrew's hand reached out, extending a card. "Maya, if you ever find yourself in need for anything at all, please do not hesitate to call me." His words were earnest, his gaze intense, as if willing her to understand the gravity of this simple gesture. Maya took the card, her expression a mix of surprise and intrigue, before stepping out into the golden light of the afternoon. Andrew watched, his heart a tumultuous sea, as she dashed towards her home, the ring on her finger catching the sun's rays, winking like a secret shared between them. His hand shook, trembling with the weight of what was to come as he dialed the number of his private investigator. Little did Maya know, as she cast a final innocent wave to the enigmatic man in the sleek car, that this seemingly serendipitous meeting was the catalyst for a cascade of revelations. Secrets buried deep under layers of time were about to surface, linking a sprawling empire, a shuttered orphanage, and a young black girl whose hands could mend the most fractured of things. How could a mere ring become the key to unraveling a labyrinth of power, prejudice, and truths that would irrevocably alter lives? In the quiet of his office at Whitaker Enterprises, Andrew spent nights poring over enlarged photographs of the emerald ring, his mind racing. This was the very ring he had placed in Maya's tiny hand at the Little Angels orphanage, a token of a promise he had not kept. Spread across his desk were documents, each one a piece of the puzzle that began when his father, Howard Whitaker, had acquired the orphanage property at a suspiciously low price, claiming financial discrepancies. Coincidentally, shortly after Andrew was elevated to CEO. Now, as Mr. Evans from legal entered his office, the pieces of the past and present began to click together, setting the stage for a confrontation with destiny. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the city, Andrew's assistant interrupted the quiet with an announcement that would shake the very foundations of his world. "The Horizon Project documents," she declared, her voice a whisper of intrigue. The Horizon Project, a sprawling luxury complex, was rising like a phoenix from the ashes, where the Little Angels orphanage once stood, a place of laughter now lost to time. Andrew's heart quickened as he hastily concealed the reports under a stack of papers. Just as Evans, his father's old confidant, strode in with a file marked, "Little Angels Acquisition." "These documents, why revisit old business?" Evans mused aloud, his eyes narrowing with curiosity. "Your father was quite particular about keeping these on file." Andrew responded, his voice tinged with a dryness that barely masked his growing unease. "He's retired in Florida now, and I am at the helm." His fingers danced over the documents, uncovering more than just financial anomalies. There were bank transfers that raised eyebrows, but more disturbingly, a list of children reallocated when the orphanage shut its doors. Among them, Maya Johnson's name, circled in a foreboding red, labeled as a special case. In the midst of this, Ramirez, his investigator, called with news that chilled him to the bone. Diana Johnson, a car accident last year, brakes failed. Suspicious circumstances. Ramirez's voice crackled through the phone, and the adoption records officially missing. Maya Johnson never existed at Little Angels, he added. Find out everything you can about her current family. Andrew commanded, his voice a mix of urgency and dread. Meanwhile, in a small workshop behind her aunt and uncle's modest home, Maya found her sanctuary. The walls lined with tools, each in its place, the air rich with the scent of oil and grease. Here she was at peace, her mind focused, her hands busy. Did you manage to fix the old radio? Leon, her uncle, asked, as he entered, his eyes bright with anticipation. Maya beamed, lifting the restored 1950s radio, its warm wood casing gleaming. I did it, just had to reconnect a few wires, she said, her voice filled with pride. Leon, his face softening with affection, ruffled her braids. You have a gift, girl. I've never seen anyone understand machines like you do. Uncle, do you think my mom would be proud? Maya asked, her voice barely above a whisper, her eyes searching his for reassurance. Diana was so proud of you, she could have burst, Leon replied, his voice thick with emotion. Maya twirled the ring on her finger, a symbol of her mother's love. I met a rich man the other day. His car broke down and I fixed it. He recognized my ring, she continued, her voice catching slightly. Leon's face froze, his mind racing. What man? He demanded, his tone urgent. Andrew Whitaker, Maya answered, showing him the card. He gave me this. Maya's heart skipped a beat as Leon's face drained of color upon catching sight of her ring. His eyes darted to Renee, who had just appeared at the doorway, her expression tense. Maya, dear, Renee began, her voice strained. Do you remember when we promised to unveil the truth about Diana when you were older? Well, that moment has arrived. That very night, Maya was enveloped in the shadows of a long-concealed narrative. She learned of Diana, a nurse at the orphanage, who had spirited her away when the facility abruptly shut down. They had lived under assumed identities, ever vigilant, forever on the run. Here, Renee said, her hands trembling slightly, as she passed Maya a yellowed envelope. Your mother left this for you. She made us vow to give it only if someone from the Whitaker family surfaced. With a heart pounding like a drum, Maya unfolded the letter. My dear Maya, if you are reading this, someone has found you. There are things you must know. Meanwhile, at Andrew's apartment, the phone rang with urgency. Sir, Ramirez's voice was grave. There's another investigator poking around Little Angels. A reporter, Marcus Hayes. He knows quite a bit. And he's got a theory about why your father was so interested in certain children at the orphanage, children with extraordinary talents. The next morning, a sleek black SUV idled outside Maya's school. Two men in sharp suits observed her as she departed with her friends. Is that her? One asked, his eyes fixed on the girl with the emerald ring. Yes, Mr. Whitaker Sr. wants to see her immediately. Unbeknownst to them, Leon watched from across the street, his grip tightening on his phone as he dialed a number Diane had given for emergencies. Marcus Hayes, it's about Little Angels, Leon whispered, and a girl with an emerald ring. I've found the proof you're seeking. At Whitaker Enterprises, Andrew faced his father, Howard, who had unexpectedly flown in from Florida, his presence as imposing as the storm clouds gathering outside. Suddenly, like a bolt from the blue, the room erupted with tension. What's this about reviewing the Little Angels documents? Howard's voice thundered through the conference room, his demands slicing through the thick air like a knife. I thought that matter was closed, he added, his tone laced with incredulity and a hint of frustration. I found Maya Johnson, Dad, the girl with the emerald ring. Andrew interjected, his voice steady but firm. Howard scoffed, his eyes narrowing. So what? Just another orphan. Project Horizon is what matters here. Billions are at stake. What was so special about that girl? His laughter, dry and devoid of humor, echoed off the walls. Don't you really understand what's at stake? Some children are valuable. He continued, his words dripping with a chilling pragmatism. They have talents that can be exploited. She fixes things, Andrew said slowly, his words measured as if weighing their impact. She can look at broken machines and just understand them. Howard's smile was icy, a stark contrast to the fire in his eyes. Think of the military applications that patents the power. Why do you think we bought that orphanage? Unbeknownst to them, Maya was already delving into Diana's letter, piecing together the fragmented truths of her past and the extraordinary talent she possessed. More crucially, she was uncovering why the emerald ring was so invaluable. It wasn't merely a piece of jewelry, but a key to documents that could dismantle an empire. The puzzle was coming together, each piece falling into its rightful place. On one side stood a formidable corporation, its executives ready to safeguard their secrets at any cost. On the other, a mere 10-year-old girl, her talent as boundless as her courage, her ring holding secrets worth far more than its weight in emeralds. Caught in the middle was Andrew, torn between the allure of power and the call of conscience. The conference room on the 50th floor of Whitaker Enterprises was alive with the palpable anxiety of nervous executives. Howard Whitaker, usually the epitome of control, now wore a mask of fury. "Where is my son?" he demanded, his fist slamming onto the massive glass table, the sound reverberating like a gunshot. Andrew should have been here an hour ago. As if conjured by his words, the double doors swung open. Andrew entered with a calm demeanor, accompanied by a woman in a suit, her presence as enigmatic as the unfolding drama. Andrew's voice carried a calm resolve as he entered, causing Howard to furrow his brow in confusion. "Sorry I'm late, Dad," he said, his composure only deepening the lines on Howard's face. "This is Federal Prosecutor Claire Bennett. She has some questions about Project Prometheus." The mention of Project Prometheus, the clandestine initiative designed to identify and exploit children with unique abilities, drained the color from Howard's face. It was a name meant to be whispered in the darkest corners, not declared in the light of day, to federal officials. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Howard hissed, his voice barely containing his shock and anger. Without a word, Andrew strode over to the large screen, his laptop in hand, and connected it. "Something I should have done a long time ago," he declared. With a flick of his wrist, the room darkened and the screen illuminated with a cascade of documents, photographs, and reports. Here were the meticulously kept records of 48 special children, their lives dissected and manipulated by Whitaker Enterprises. "You stole confidential documents." Howard tried to regain his footing, his voice tinged with accusation. "Documents evidencing far worse crimes," Andrew retorted, his voice firm and unyielding. "Unauthorized experiments on minors, falsification of adoption records, bribery of public officials, and the intimidation of witnesses." The screen then flickered to life with security footage from over a decade ago. A young nurse, now known to Andrew as Diana Johnson, was seen escaping under the cloak of night, clutching a child to her chest. Then a chilling clip of Howard himself issuing orders to security. "Find her. The girl has significant military potential. We can't lose her." Andrew's voice was relentless as he continued. "Three Little Angels employees died in accidents in the weeks that followed, including Diana's brother, who had begun to ask too many questions. You have no idea of the implications?" Howard started, but his words were cut short as the doors swung open once more. Mia Johnson entered her presence like a breath of fresh air, accompanied by Uncle Leon and Marcus Hayes, a journalist from the Boston Globe, his camera ready to capture the unfolding truth. "Maya," Andrew began, his voice softening, the weight of his revelations momentarily lifting as he acknowledged her. With a gentle whisper, Maya spoke, her voice barely above a breath. "You didn't have to come." Yet the young girl's response carried a weight of dignity far beyond her years. "Yes, I did. Diana always warned that one day I'd confront the men who forced us to flee." Howard's gaze, initially wide and with shock, hardened into a mask of cold calculation as he regarded her. "So you're the prodigious Project 17, he remarked, his voice laced with a mix of surprise and disdain. "I didn't expect you to be so diminutive." "And you're the man who murdered my mother," Maya retorted, her eyes unwavering, piercing through Howard's facade. Her brakes didn't fail by accident, did they? A smile slick with regained confidence played on Howard's lips. "Proving anything would be a Herculean task, my dear. And let's not forget who I am. One simple phone call, and all of this vanishes into thin air." In that charged moment, Maya reached into her backpack, her fingers trembling slightly as she extracted an emerald ring. With deliberate care, she twisted the stone, unveiling a hidden chamber. From within, she retrieved a minuscule device. Diana was far cleverer than you ever imagined, she declared, her voice steady. This is a storage device concealed within the ring. It holds backup copies of all the Little Angels records, including recordings of your sinister discussions with military doctors about exploiting children for strategic purposes. Howard Whitaker, for the first time, found himself at a loss for words. Marcus Hayes, seizing the moment, pointed to his camera. This is being broadcast live to our studio and directly onto social media platforms. Over 10,000 are already tuned in. Andrew approached his father, his voice a hushed whisper. It's over. The prosecutor has offered me immunity for full cooperation. As for you, let's leave it to a jury to decide. As federal agents stormed in to arrest Howard Whitaker, Maya stepped forward, her presence commanding. My mother taught me, she began, her voice calm yet resonant, that broken machines can be mended, but broken people, she paused, her gaze piercing, they must mend themselves. I hope, Mr. Whitaker, you find the strength to do so. Howard was led away, his empire crumbling in plain sight, a spectacle for the world to behold. In the aftermath, the stocks of Whitaker Enterprises plummeted like a stone into the abyss. Investigations unearthed a history steeped in unethical practices, illegal experiments, and a deep-seated corruption that had festered over decades. Andrew watched the unraveling with a bittersweet symphony of relief and regret playing in his heart. Yes, he had lost his family and the wealth that was his birthright, but in the wreckage he had uncovered something far more precious, his integrity. At the courthouse, as Howard braced himself for his preliminary hearing, Mia found Andrew on the steps outside. What happens now? She inquired, the emerald ring on her finger, now a beacon of truth rather than a harbinger of secrets. Andrew gazed out at the city skyline, his eyes tracing the silhouettes of skyscrapers erected with funds tainted by exploitation and suffering. Among them stood the once proud Whitaker building, soon to be stripped of its name. We rebuild, he declared with a voice carrying the weight of newfound purpose. Not just buildings, but lives. What none could have foreseen at that moment was how this rebuilding would not only transform their personal worlds, but would ripple out to change an entire community. From the ruins of an empire built on exploitation, a phoenix was about to rise. It would herald a new era, altering forever the perception of exceptional talent in the most unlikely of places. 5 years have passed since Maya Johnson, at the tender age of 15, unveiled the dark truths of the Whitaker Empire. On a bright spring morning, she walked through the corridors of the newly established Johnson Center for Young Inventors. This sprawling complex of labs, workshops, and classrooms had arisen from the ashes of the Little Angels orphanage. The sensors in the East Wing are still malfunctioning, Maya announced to the engineers trailing her, her keen eyes spotting issues in complex systems as effortlessly as she had once uncovered the Empire's dark secrets. Imagine, if you will, the heart-rending echo of a Mustang's radiator leaking years ago, the poignant symbol of an empire's decline. At the Johnson Center, a transformation was underway. Andrew Whitaker, once the heir to an empire built on exploitation, stood in jeans and a button-down shirt, no longer the tycoon in a suit. He had given away his fortune, channeling it into the Prometheus Initiative, now a beacon of hope rather than a beacon for profit. 23 children with exceptional talents discovered this quarter alone, Andrew exclaimed with the fervor of a man reborn. Each child, a diamond in the rough from marginalized communities, was now the recipient of a full scholarship in personalized mentoring. No strings attached, no hidden agendas, just pure unadulterated opportunity. The metamorphosis of Andrew Whitaker was as startling as it was inspiring. Former executives at Whitaker Enterprises, once part of the machinery of exploitation, now watched in awe as he endeavored to mend the tears in the fabric of society he had once helped to fray. Maya is about to publish her third patent. Leon, now the engineering program director, he announced with pride. The academic titans, Harvard, MIT, and Stanford, were already in a fervent bidding war over who would have the honor of recruiting this prodigy. The center's main wall told the tale, a visual narrative of redemption, photographs of the orphanage, clippings from newspapers detailing the collapse of Whitaker Enterprises, and that pivotal headline, Whitaker Empire collapses after teenage revelations. Meanwhile, in a medium-security federal prison, Howard Whitaker, once the puppet master of billions, now stared at the stark walls of his cell. His allies had vanished, his wealth seized, his legacy tarnished. He refuses any rehabilitation, a guard noted, shaking his head. Still thinks he'll rebuild his empire. The once formidable man was now just a shadow, his arrogance, a sad parody of his former self, clinging to dreams of power that would never materialize. That night, the Johnson Center buzzed with a different kind of energy, hosting its first major graduation ceremony. Here, 12 young souls from the depths of disadvantage had not only survived, but thrived, ready to step into a world that had once seemed out of reach. Their journey was just beginning, a testament to the power of second chances and the undying spirit of human potential. The auditorium was abuzz with excitement, the air thick with anticipation as the intensive 2-year program culminated in a ceremony of transformation and hope. Each graduate held either a job offer or a college scholarship, their futures bright and promising. Among them stood Maya, a beacon of youth and wisdom, too young to graduate, yet revered as a mentor by her older peers. She ascended the stage, her emerald ring, a testament not to secrets but to profound change twirling on her finger. 10 years old, and I found myself fixing a stranger's car on a deserted roadside, she began, her voice resonant with emotion. That small act of kindness had unraveled a sinister web of exploitation, but it also set the stage for a renaissance of sorts. Andrew, watching from the shadows at the bio, felt his eyes well up. This girl who had once shattered his world had inadvertently bestowed upon him a purpose more valuable than any wealth. My adoptive mother, Diana, once told me that while broken machines can be repaired, broken systems must be rebuilt from their very foundations. Maya continued, her words echoing through the room. That's our mission here, not merely to mend what was broken, but to forge something new, something better. The very next day, an unexpected letter arrived addressed to Maya. The sender was Victoria Whitaker, who had renounced her family name in the wake of scandal and now served justice as a federal prosecutor. We've uncovered 5 more orphanages running programs akin to Little Angels, the letter revealed. Thanks to your testimony and the evidence you've provided, we've rescued and safeguarded 37 more children. Some possess talents like yours. When you're ready, they would love to meet you. As Maya shared the letter with Andrew, Uncle Leon, and Aunt Renee, a palpable sense of closure enveloped them. What started as a serendipitous encounter on a lonely road had evolved into a silent revolution, altering not just their lives, but the very system that had once preyed on the vulnerable. Isn't it ironic, Andrew mused aloud, his voice tinged with a mix of sadness and wonder. Howard had always spoken of constructing a legacy, and indeed he did, though not in the manner he had envisioned. Gazing out the window, Maya watched the children frolic in the center's gardens, unburdened by the sinister manipulation that had once threatened to shape her own fate. True power, she whispered to herself, isn't found in towering structures or overflowing bank accounts. It lies in the profound ability to touch and transform lives. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the Johnson Center, a new sign was unveiled at its entrance, proclaiming boldly, "Every talent deserves to flourish. Every child deserves freedom." This was more than a statement. It was a vow for the future, rising from the ruins of a history they vowed never to revisit. If this tale of justice, resilience, and profound change has stirred something within you, please, we implore you, subscribe to our channel. Leave us a comment, share this video, or give it a like. Your engagement helps us continue to bring you stories of how small acts of bravery can reshape systems and how true reparation is not merely about condemning the wrong, but about creating a beacon of hope in its wake. Thank you for joining us on this journey.